help is not a sign of weakness, it's a source of strength.
That feeling that you have of fear, it actually means you're about to do some epic shit.
When people avoid what they fear, that actually predicts the development and the sustainment of anxiety and depression.
Hey everybody, it's me, the Einstein of Wall Street here from the balcony of the New York Stock Exchange. This is, look, what do we talk about? We're talking about people who are change other people's lives. We talk about the real internal things, the human element and the human story. Today I want to introduce you to Jill Schulman. She is absolutely, look, it's amazing. From the minute I saw her book and I talked to my man, David Meltzer, who's my mentor and my friend and my teacher, told me how incredible she was. So I want to welcome you to the balcony here at the New York Stock Exchange.
Thanks
it's my pleasure. Look, Bravery, let's talk about it. You just started to tell me about you and about your lines and everything that's meaningful. You just go for it.
Yeah,
Tell me
well, really, if you think about fear, everyone experiences fear. So fear is inevitable, but it's how we react to fear.
Right.
That is the hesitation, or people running away and many times hesitating, that is optional.
Okay.
And
so we know, sorry to interrupt you, but you know the sort of those, you know, there's false evidence appearing real.
Exactly.
You know that one,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Fuck everything and run, right, is another one, right?
Exactly.
These are the things that we do when we're confronted by fear.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people think that the goal is to, I don't want to experience fear. So when they're feeling fear, they're running away, they're trying to avoid it. Like, for me to live my happiest life, I don't want to encounter fear. And that's the wrong thing. If we can change our relationship with fear, then we can change our life.
Okay.
You know, so what I teach and what my research is all about is how to teach people how to be brave. So, because bravery is the skill. Bravery is not a trait,
so how
it's a
did
skill.
we differentiate bravery from confidence or or
well,
other things that we consider? I mean, bravery is something like, I'm going to go into the fire, or I'm going to go.
If someone feels 100% confident, then they don't feel fear. So if someone isn't scared a little, if there's no fear, they're not being brave. So if someone is 100% confident and they're doing something, I'd say you're not being brave.
Okay, you're not being brave. So it's not working with your psyche in that way.
Right.
Okay.
So bravery is defined as it's voluntary action in the presence of fear toward a noble, worthwhile goal.
Wow.
And if you're not a little bit nervous or scared, that means you're just living a life of comfort, which means your life isn't going to be as exciting or as, you're not going to thrive in life. So this is where I want people to not try to fear less. Like, don't try to avoid fear. You should be finding things, going after things, like setting goals that are big enough so that you do feel a little bit of that nervous. So fear more.
Change the relationship you have to fear.
Yes, exactly.
So here, I'll explain to you something interesting relative to David Meltzer, right, who is how we met.
Yes, David, we love David.
My daughter asked me one day, like, so do you still get, so I think she was going to do a presentation or something, and she had just graduated school, and she goes, like, you know, you do what you do every day. You look like you always are really confident, and you know what you're doing. Do you still ever get butterflies in your stomach when you do stuff? And I said, all the time. I said, I've been doing this for 40 years. I wake up in the morning with a little bit of fear, and it's sort of a healthy level of fear.
Exactly.
Even though, like, you can throw me in the middle of somewhere and I can talk for 4 hours about what I know, and there's a little bit of fear. But it was curious because I asked David once about, he said to me, I talked to him about the butterflies in your stomach, right? And he said, think about it. He said, and now I'm just trying to put the whole thing together. He said, that feeling that you have of fear means you're not incapable, or you don't have the confidence or any of those things. It means if you flip the table on it, it actually means you're about to do some epic shit.
Yes,
right?
That's exactly
the mentality behind it.
And a couple just practical things. If someone's feeling fear, just say, like, the feeling of fear is almost identical to the feeling of excitement. So just tell yourself, like, instead of saying I'm scared, just say I'm excited because the thing I'm about to do is important. Yeah, so another way of defining bravery too, instead of saying, you know, my academic definition, it's like doing shit scared because it matters, right? And if something matters, you need to move toward it. Yeah. So those butterflies are good, and every person's different. So what I do to be brave is different than somebody else, right? Like, I can get on a stage in front of thousands of people and it doesn't make me nervous. Right. But if it's 10,000, I'm going to be a little nervous. So that's why I'm trying. Yeah. Like, I need to be a little nervous. So I want bigger stages. So I get a little bit nervous. Right. So think of it as it's the Goldilocks. You know, it's a whole. You want to be in the Goldilocks zone. So if you are living a life of, let me tell you about the Goldilocks zone. So if you live a life of comfort and you never feel those butterflies, that means it's too little. You're not going towards any major goals. This is not healthy. Discomfort, you say that there. Discomfort is where you find growth. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So too little is not good, right? Now, too much if it's extreme where you probably will fail or flounder, then that sometimes isn't good. So you need to get out of your comfort zone in a place where, like, I'm a little nervous. I can prepare to make sure I'm going to be successful. So you always want to be in that Goldilocks zone. So not too little, but also, like, if you say you want to climb Mount Everest,
Right.
Someday, and then you say, I'm going to try it next week, I would say, okay, that's outside of the Goldilocks zone. You're probably not going to be successful. So I would say, like, what is it? Like, let's go climb Mount Kilimanjaro next month. That would be a better one. So that's what we mean with the Goldilocks zone. Yeah.
No, so for me, that's exciting. The exciting part is that, if you're able to flip that on its head, and so if you're about to confront the situation and it's causing you anxiety, let's say, if you were to say to yourself, wow, so I'm anxious because I don't think I can do it, or it's a little out of my comfort zone, or any of those things, if you flip it on its head, which is David's line, is that feeling of anxiety or butterflies means what I'm about to do is going to be something significant.
It's important. And when it's important and the stakes are high, then that's when we feel that emotion. And you just mentioned anxiety, so I got to talk about this too. So when
it plays a part in all of this.
It does, I know, but I think sometimes in today's day and age, we use the term anxiety too much.
Right.
And sometimes it's a label, especially the younger generation, that brings me anxiety.
They're all suffering from PTSD or
so
whatever.
now I shouldn't do this for my mental well-being. But let's look at, I'm an academic nerd, so let's look at the research. So when people run away from what they fear, because it brings them stress or anxiety, what we know, based on experiential avoidance, is that when people avoid what they fear, that actually predicts the development and the sustainment of anxiety and depression.
Okay.
So let's think about this. Our younger generation, or a lot of people, are like, well, I want to avoid what makes me anxious to be happier.
Right.
But when you avoid what you fear, it actually causes you get weaker and weaker over time. So that's where I want to help people change their relationship. Like, if something makes you a little bit nervous, but it matters, what is the goal that you have? Something you've always wanted to do. That's something that's exciting.
Right.
And yes, you're a little bit nervous and you're a little bit scared. You need to go for it. So, and the opposite effect. So if avoiding what you fear declines your mental well-being.
Yep.
And this goes,
which is so counter to no one's normal thinking.
It is counter.
Right, yeah.
When you move toward what you fear, which it sucks in the moment, right? In the Marine Corps, we call it embrace the suck. So I talk about that from the stage. Embrace the suck. Like, it's hard to face your fear in the moment, but that's what leads to the greatest things in life. Our most proud accomplishments are on the other side of hard, right?
You're so right. Look, when I started reading the things that I read about you, right, it brings me back to, so I've had great success and I've had really big failures, and I've had, we know we learn a lot more from failure than we do from success, right? Failure is it's pain is the touchstone of spiritual growth, right? That's a big deal. So true. But also, so there's that thing where, when you're spiritually being tested, or you hit bottom. I mean, like, you think about, I met David Meltzer. So I got COVID on March 15, 2020. I was patient 0. And I was given 3 months to live. I got meningitis. I've had 7 neck surgeries. I was in a full neck brace for 5.5 years. And my life was just, they thought I was going to be done, right? I lost the whole lower part of my left lung, all this stuff. It was madness. And in the middle of that, my brother died of cancer and my wife died of cancer. So I had a period of years where I was being beaten down by grief, which obviously left me in a somewhat of a state of fear. But grief has a mind of its own as well. However, it's a matter of, if I had a couple of choices. I could, and then there was a period of time during 2006 and 7, the great financial crisis, where my business just dried up, like most people here. And I had a choice. I had a choice to either hide under the covers and sort of cower, because I had been very successful before, and now suddenly everything had dried up. And I'm thinking, like, what do I do? So I could hide under the covers, or else I could embrace this and kind of fake it till I make it. So I spent probably a week or so hiding under the covers, and then I realized no opportunity is going to find me here, right? It's all about putting yourself out there, right? Suiting up, showing up, and giving it a shot. Yeah. So I said, you know what, this is crazy. I'm not going to do it. So I got dressed and I went to work for 2 years, never told anybody that I was broke or I wasn't making any money, right? I showed up at work every day and just acted as if everything was fine. one day and I was living off of credit cards and borrowing money from my parents. I had a wife and 2 children at this time.
Oh my gosh!
Right, but I just kept doing
you kept
it, showing
working,
up.
kept
I
showing
kept
up.
working, and I knew that no opportunity was going to find me at home under the covers. So one day I was on the subway. I ran into a guy I had done business with 20 years before, and he goes, Pete, so good to see you. What's going on? How are you? And it was the first time I got honest with him, and I said, you know what? I'm struggling. I'm broke. I got everything dried up. I have no business. I'm in trouble. And he goes, wow. And I said, to be honest, I've never told anybody this. So you're the only guy. He goes, that's crazy. Come on, let's get together and let's work through this. Let's start doing business together. We ended up building a business together, and we ended up trading together for another 20 years after that. But I use that thing because it's like when people get confronted by these things that are the boogeyman, they tend to cower under it, and they think that the only way is going to be to hide or wait for everything to be okay before it happens. Sometimes you just have to show up, and by showing up, you're going to, it's like fake it till you make it type of a situation.
Well, you also said another thing that I think is really important, because a lot of people think bravery is like, I'm just going to pretend like everything's okay, and I can never let anyone know that I have questions, I'm struggling, I need help. Right. And you were brave enough to open up and share that I need some help. And that's one of the things that's in the book where I teach. It's about, this is the social psychology, like bravery is contagious, and and I use analogies also in the Marine Corps. Like if we have a mission to accomplish, because I'm a former Marine.
Oh, I didn't know.
Oh yes,
okay.
I'm a former.
Wow. Oh my God. Okay. You
so
must have been a kick-ass Marine.
My first career as a Marine. So if we have an objective to accomplish, and we are pinned down and we're stuck, what is the smart thing to do? Should we just say, "Oh, I'll figure it out on my own," or are we going to call in support? Right. So this is a skill that I want everyone to learn, and to be brave.
The ability to ask.
And you're going to accomplish your goals so much faster. You're going to be able to overcome adversity if you find the people that have the wisdom, that have gone down the path before you, and they have those resources. So asking for help is not a sign of weakness; it's a source of strength.
Yes.
So if you're being brave and setting ambitious goals, there's going to be the ups, the great days, and you celebrate those. But there's going to be, you're going to stumble, you're going to have failure, and when you do, be smart enough to call up a friend and go, "Hey, I kind of stumbled, and this is a little bit of a challenge. What advice do you have?" And if you can get comfortable being vulnerable enough, being brave enough to ask smart people that have the wisdom for help, you're going to get so much further.
Yeah. I love that, and that's really, I've lived my life that way, so speaking of David Meltzer, so I get COVID, my wife and children are taken away, that my wife and daughter went up to, I have a house in the Berkshires, my son was still here working, I was like sealed in my apartment, right, so no one knew what to do back then.
Right.
The stock exchange, I was already very, very well known, so the stock exchange got me these famous Chinese doctors who were taking care of me. My father had been a very famous doctor until he passed away at 98 years old. And so I called in the crew of all the people who he knew, who were his students eventually, because he practiced till he was 96. And so I had this team around me, but they basically said, we don't think you're going to make it past August.
Oh my God.
And so I'm sitting at home, like confronted by death.
And then you're by yourself.
And I'm by myself. And David Meltzer pops up on my phone on one of his, it was like an Instagram thing. And I hear he was telling his story about hitting rock bottom and digging his way back from that spiritual low. And I'm going, wow, okay. And I called him. I didn't know who he was. And I called him. I said, you may not know who I am. He goes, of course I know who you are. He goes, why are you calling me? I said, this is what I'm going through, and I'm hurting. And I was crying on the phone. And I said, but you look like you're the person I need to be my mentor to get me through this, because I'm considering jumping out the window. And he goes, let's not do that. Let's just change. We can always do that tomorrow. For today, let's hang out, you and me. We spent probably 2 or 3 hours on the phone together. And that was the beginning of our relationship. We became best friends.
I did not know that.
Yeah, we became best friends.
The whole world, David.
It was a pivotal moment in my life, because it was literally, I was considering ending my life, which would have been a weak moment. Was I really going to do it? I don't know.
But you were considering it.
I was considering it because every force was coming down. I had just lost my mother and father. I had just lost, my brother had passed away and my wife was sick. And it was just like, what's happening here? Like, I was looking at the situation like, why is this happening? You get in that mode where like, why is this happening? You play victim, right? I grew up, look, my parents are both Holocaust survivors. They spent 4 years in Auschwitz. So my background is one of resilience. resilience, spirit, and survivorship.
Yes.
Right? And so I kind of had to dig into that level because I grew up every day of my life hearing the stories of my mother, who was a beautiful, elegant woman who walked around in a fur coat and had a beautiful, wonderful life, but at one time she was lying, in a cot with 5 dead women, waiting for them to die so she could steal their clothes so she could survive another day, right? So and if I ever had a problem, they would go, you don't realize it could be a lot worse.
Yeah.
So get a grip on it. Look at the perspective here.
Right.
And so that's how I grew up. And that was in my DNA, that ability to survive against
Gritty.
all odds. And so it's one of the things that I do. I do motivational speaking for young people all the time, and sort of, and David's one of my mentors. And so I learned so much from him just in so many different ways, But the most important thing that I try and teach people is, first of all, that we learn more from failure than success.
Yes.
There's no door that you can't knock on, right? At the end of the day, you need to get up, show up, suit up, and go for it. Because otherwise, look, life is too short, right? We're not here for a long time. We're here for a good time. We need to take opportunity.
Absolutely. And my psychology background, because I'm an expert in psychology too, as you talk about the failure too, I studied under Dr. Marty Seligman, probably the most famous psychologist in the world, at the University of Pennsylvania. When you have those setbacks too, he talks about a lot of people have that pessimistic mindset where they're like, everything is ruined. There's no way anything's changing. The sky is falling.
Why is this happening to me mode?
Victim mentality.
Victim,
But if you believe pessimistic, like there's nothing I can do, that's so dangerous, because if you think there's nothing you can do, then you stay.
You're manifesting negative. You're manifesting.
And then you stay in your apartment under the covers and you don't do anything.
Correct.
So we can shift from that pessimism to optimism. Now, it's also realism. You have to be realistic in saying, like, my situation really sucks. This failure is a big setback. But you have to believe that. You have to seek the truth, which is, it is possible for me to overcome. So when you believe that you can get through it and there is a way out, then that little glimmer of optimism causes you to get out from under the covers and start and doing what you did. You just got to get back up and start fighting again. And so the reason why it's so important is pessimism causes people to stop trying.
Right. They get paralyzed.
They get paralyzed, but the optimism gets you back up and trying. And I just want to, there's 2 examples you've given too, is when you are struggling, you called David Meltzer. Right. You shared this in a thing. If you're struggling, as humans in psychology, like, that is where our natural reaction is to reach out and help. So don't think you're being tough, like, oh, I can figure this out on my own. Like, call a trusted person and they can help you. David is the one that helped you, who's an amazing human being, and we all love him. And that other guy. So,
So, it's like, I think I lost my train of thought. Where was I going with this? Wow. God.
That happens to me all the time.
Oh my God, it's going to drive me crazy now. Anyway, so look, we're talking about bravery, we're talking about gratitude, right? Talking about kindness, right? All of those things that make up, this journey that we do, right? And our MO. Wait, I think it's coming back. No, I can't believe I'm forgetting this. It was something to do with.
I have something that you made me think of. So when it comes to.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, when it comes to bravery, at the heart of my work, and the reason I care about this so much, is what I studied, what I got my master's at Penn, is the study of happiness, positive psychology. So I want to just link together like bravery and happiness, because that's really it. So when people learn to be brave and they set those ambitious goals that are self-concordant, that their soul desires, and it's scary to move forward. When people do that, when they take the step forward, then they build that self-confidence, right? And they realize, if I take a step forward in the presence of fear and it goes okay, you're like, wow, I did that. Now I feel a little bit more confident. My self-esteem goes up. Right. Now the opposite, if there's something you really want to do and you take a step back and you don't do it, you feel pretty crappy about yourself. Yeah. So when people learn to be brave, which is, facing the fears on the path to accomplish their goals, they end up feeling pride. Right. Their self-confidence goes up and their happiness goes up. Right. So that is why this subject, the skill of bravery, teaching people how to be brave, is so critical, because we have this mental health crisis and we need to stop handling people with kid gloves and taking all the stress away. We need to teach people to be brave and walk towards their fear, overcome their fear. When people can conquer their fear, they're more successful. Yeah. But most importantly, they can live a fuller life. They're happier.
Yeah. Now think about happiness and joy.
Yes.
Another differentiator, right? So we know that David Meltzer's premise is to bring joy to 1 billion people in the world, right? That was what he embarked on when he hit his bottom and he dug himself out of that, and he decided to go back out into the journey.
Yeah.
It was to bring joy. Now, joy is a curious thing. It's not happiness. Joy is a little bit different because there is a thing called anhedonia, right? Which is the inability to experience joy. Okay, it's actually a syndrome.
Okay.
Right? Okay.
I can't believe I don't know this. I have a psychology degree. Like, you're teaching me.
I only know it because during the war, as I said, both parents were in concentration camps, the worst of the camps, for 4 years. My father, who survived the war with his father, adopted this young boy whose parents had been murdered, and they sort of came under his wing in a situation where they were going to shoot him. He was 8 years old. My father and my grandfather sort of took him under their wing, adopted him during the war, and he lived the rest of the war with them. My grandfather was asked to make a factory building firing pins for the B-1 bomb. And so they sort of kept him in the factory with them. He survived the war. My grandfather paid to have him sent to America. And after the war, he got foster parents in St. Louis. Then my parents met in a deportation camp, fell in love, came to New York, adopted him formally, and he went on to become a billionaire, an amazing guy, an incredible life. However, he had the inability to experience joy. He had huge success, beautiful family, but he could not experience. Now, obviously, that was from the trauma, have lost his parents. See, people who experience...
But was he happy? Could he be happy without the joy?
He was happy. He struggled with happiness, but there was that underlying inability to really. It was like that. The thing about joy is it's sort of in your DNA. It's something you can. Happiness is flighting. Joy is a state of, like I'm a joyful person, right? And I mean, even when things are bad, you can still find, it's like, for me, joy is like, even when things are bad, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel type of a difference. And so, but there's an actual disease.
Interesting.
It's kind of fascinating.
Yeah.
So think about it. I mean, I agree with you that people are being handled with way too. Look, think about when we were growing up, everybody didn't have ADHD and everyone didn't have a medication for all the different things. It's like, so you were allergic to that, or you did this, or whatever it was, but it was not this. Like, it's very clear that your premise is that people need that it's not a test, right? It's an opportunity to find a way to navigate this thing. I mean,
well, as you say this too, you're making me think of, like, when we talk about, like, the goal, people are like, what is the goal of life? Well, it's to be happy, and then what is the difference between joy and happiness? And so if we just dissect that for a moment, like, I think what people are confused are, they're like, the key to happiness in life is like, for me to live a good life is I just need to be happy all the time. I just need to experience joy. But again, when we look at the research, because I'm the academic nerd here, is in order to live a thriving life, to look back at your life and say, I lived a great life, 1/5 of this well-being or happiness is your emotional state. So there's 5 things that lead to happiness according to all the research in positive psychology. One is positive emotion. So positive emotion is 1/5 of thriving in life.
Positive emotion, like joy and love and all those different things. So positive emotion is important. But if that's the only thing we're shooting for, then we're never going to try to be brave, because you're not going to be experiencing joy when you're doing something hard. It's a little bit in a.
So there's positive emotion. It's an acronym. It's PERMA. P is positive emotion. E is engagement, which is getting into a flow state, doing something you love on the edge of getting out of your comfort zone. Choose Think Me High's research. The third one, R, is relationships. You cannot live really a happy life without the quality of relationships. Relationships is important, and then the M is meaning, making sure that what you're doing matters. We talk about meaning, and then finally the A is accomplishment, right? So when we look at living a good life and having a life that does not have regret, we shouldn't just focus on just being happy in every single moment. That's why you got to set those meaningful goals, to accomplish something, and then on the path to achieving that, there's going to be a lot of joy and wonderful things, but you might have some failures, and you might have some
bumps
setbacks.
In the road, pebbles in your shoe type of experiences. Yeah,
exactly.
I know that the thing. Now I remember what I was talking about. First of all, about putting a team together. Look, humans, I think, basic premise is also that when they are in trouble or they're fearful, is to isolate, right? And then so they just hide, right? It's not easy. It's one of the hardest things for people to ask for help. right? But that's a muscle memory too.
Yeah, we need to
once
change
you
that.
learn how to do that, then you realize the power of it. Like, look, when I talk about success and failure, or success and fulfillment, right? I can be very successful, but if my life may not be very fulfilling, the fulfilling part
Exactly.
is how can I influence someone in a positive way? So my father was this doctor who had a wonderful early part of his life, obviously difficulty living through the war, and then went on. And he was a humanist in so many ways. And he would say that the most important thing is how can I influence somebody's life in a positive way?
Yeah.
Which is the most important thing, is to
And
create
that
a
feels-
team around me
Yes.
that are people who want my best, right? You know, it's like, get rid of everybody who is just, wants a piece of you, who's just clutching onto you. People who are not really there to be on your team.
Yeah. And you made me think of something that I think is so important that relates, which is if we're trying to make a positive impact, and if I'm helping someone, like let's say you needed some help and you called me.
Right.
When I can help you get over something, or I can help you be more successful, or I can help you live a happier life,
Right.
that not only has a positive impact on you, but it has a higher positive impact on me. So the act of helping other people,
Right.
it has such an impact on the person that's giving the help.
Right. Doing
So
an estimable act.
yeah, so we need to remember that, because that's why everyone has to hesitate to ask for help. Because I don't want to
I don't want
bother.
to owe them, or they'll owe me.
I don't want to bother Peter. He's so important in New York.
Right,
I don't want to
right,
call him
right.
up. But if I hesitate and I don't call you, I'm robbing you the opportunity to help me. So that's another thing to remind people of.
Yeah.
Everyone that's so hesitant to ask for help.
Yeah.
Asking for help is brave. Right? You need to be brave enough to admit you need help, brave enough to approach the person, and then you're going to give them joy. So if we all just help one another, we lift each other up.
It's like being of service.
Being of service.
Right, that's the most important thing, and it's such a two-sided thing that you get as much as the person, sometimes
Exactly.
even more.
Exactly.
Which is amazing.
Yes.
You know what? We could talk about this stuff forever. I absolutely
love
love
it.
it. You're
think about it.
wonderful. Let's do this
I had so
again
much
sometime.
fun. Yes.
Look, look, this is so important. It's pivotal for people to actually get through life. Life is not easy,
Yep.
right? And we're going to go through. Everybody's going to deal with hard times.
Yes.
Whether it's emotional, physical, financial,
Exactly.
or whatever. As I said, grief has a mind of its own, right? It lays in wait, and it has this ability to pounce on you. But the bottom line is, if you're able to I found the tools I use to get through these hard times that I've had
Yep.
is basically compartmentalizing things.
Yes.
Not negating them, acknowledging them, but not letting them define me.
Exactly. Like, shit is going to happen in life.
Yep.
But your response to it is a choice. So that is like, there's going to be bad things that happen. And you've got agency to say, like, am I going to allow this to defeat me, or am I going to rise up? So we have that choice. So it's our reaction to things in life.
Life is going to happen. It's how we react to life.
Exactly.
That goes back. Look, that's a matter of, look, even if you analyze addiction. Okay, the way where somebody who has a drug or alcohol problem.
Yep.
I work with young kids who are dealing with addictive problems, and it's the same. Life is still going to happen, right? There's no guarantee that life is going to necessarily get better. But what makes the difference on your road in recovery is your reaction to life.
Your reaction to life.
Right? You can react. Look, people who are addicted to substances or whatnot, they're going to do it when things are good. They're going to do it when things are bad. But it's a matter of, how do I react to life? That is the key to all of this, and
So true.
that's how you're able to navigate yourself in and out of things. Because look, I mean, life is going to happen no matter what, right? We're obviously going to all lose our parents. That's one thing, but the other things that happen, there's no way to predict any of those things.
Yeah. And at the heart of all this is agency. Like, agency is, you have an ability to create the life that you want, or to steer your life. So no matter what your circumstances are, you've got to believe that I can take action to change my circumstance to make a better life. If we believe that, then we're going to take action, right? So that's where, like, life is messy and there's a lot of setbacks, but again, we have a choice. So how we react to it, and anyone who's like struggling, there's so much help out there. Like, that's why I wrote
There's tons of help.
and that's why I wrote my book
help.
on
Human help.
Human help. Yeah, and even the skill of bravery. Back to bravery, we're talking about bravery is not a trait. It is a skill anyone can learn, and you just have to. It's like a muscle. So when it comes to some people that I speak to come up and say, like, I'm just not brave. Like, you were a Marine, I'm just not brave like you. And I tell them that bravery is like a muscle. If someone comes up to me and says to me that I'm not strong, I could never be strong, I would say, well, that's ridiculous. You can go into the gym, and you can learn, and over time you build strength. The same thing with bravery. So anyone can learn to be brave, to conquer your fears.
Yeah.
You just have to do the work. And that's where I bring the psychological tools. Like anyone can do it. And when then people break through it, their shoulders go back.
It's, totally
it's
different
amazing.
human being.
Yeah.
And that, for me, that's the best thing is when the help that you give somebody changes their whole
life.
trajectory.
And there's nothing greater. There's no greater
Nothing
feeling to
greater.
helping people.
That's it. And look, at the end of the day, I don't need to be standing alone on some mountaintop with a whole bunch of cash, bragging about what I'm doing.
I want to have a lot of cash with all my friends around. That's what
Exactly. I agree with you 100%. To be able to impact somebody else's life in a positive way.
That's the real riches in life.
Right. And then to create a community of that is the best thing in the world.
I love you.
We can talk. The next
You're
time
the
we
best.
talk, I want to talk about how this relates actually to trading, because there's a whole mindset now around day trading the stock market and around how psychologists are now. Did you ever see the show Billions?
Yes.
You know that show, and do you know Wendy?
Yes.
Wendy is the in-house psychologist.
I'm sometimes called the Wendy.
Are you the called
I'm
the
the Wendy. I'm the Wendy in organizations.
So I recently met a young woman who was a psychologist, and then she got introduced to trading through me, and then she realized, oh my God, so much of trading and is about the psychology of it. We get in our own. We are the one. We get in our own way.
We do.
And we create. We can either manifest success or not. And so there's now a big movement of I'm starting to do a podcast with her about psychology and trading and how it's amazing the difference, because when people are successful trading, it's all about self-esteem, it's about confidence, about thinking clearly, it's not being victim mode, like not blaming, right? If you what's that great line, if you take the me out of blame, it's just blah 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 blah. right? So you
got all these one-liners. I love it.
But you need to be able to own where you're at, own your truth, all that kind of stuff. The last thing I'll say is this lady who I was speaking of, who also talks about psychology, said that she was paying for her dad to see a therapist, and then suddenly she noticed that she wasn't being billed for their visits any longer, and she called her dad and she said, like, what happened? I thought you were going to. She said, I decided I would just go to ChatGPT and get my advice from and she goes, what are you talking about? Why would you ever if you have the opportunity to talk to a human, right? And so we were having a conversation about how AI and about ChatGPT could be like our demise in so many ways. Obviously, it does broaden our life in a lot of ways, but the minute we stop using human beings to become our team members, and we start talking to a machine about things as powerful as our psyche or our mental health, then we're in trouble.
Yeah. We should be using AI to do all the menial tasks to give us more time to connect with real humans.
Correct.
So that's how AI can help us be happier and more productive, but we cannot replace human connection.
No, we cannot.
Yes.
Woo!
All right.
So the human element is cool. This has been wonderful.
Thank
I
you
look
much.
forward to doing it. This is the Einstein Wall Street from the balcony with Jill Schulman, and giddy up. That's all I got to say about that.